Hello, people. Today I want to talk to you about the Tanglewood Boys. And I was thinking about talking to you about them because you hear a lot about the Bath Avenue Boys or that group of young guys. The difference between the Bath Avenue Boys and say the Tanglewood Boys would be that the Tanglewood Boys were mostly kids of mobsters that were already made men. They were the kids, and they used to hang out a plaza called the Tanglewood Plaza, Mall Plaza. And I grew up in Yonkers for a certain part of my life. These guys were not in my age range, but they were in my brother's age range. And Tom hung around with these guys along with other people. Now, he wasn't one of them. He didn't go in the streets with them, but he had an incident where the Tanglewood Boys actually saved his behind. He was at the Yonkers Mall, and the Albanians tracked him there because he was messing with one of the Albanians' women. So they basically surrounded the mall and they were looking everywhere for him. And Tom had no way out. So back then, you didn't have cell phones and stuff. He went into a department store, uh, made him hid himself away because the Albanians were very, very big in Yonkers at that time, as were the Tanglewood Boys. They basically feuded with one another. But what happened is my brother got a hold of a couple guys in the Tanglewood Boys, and the whole group showed up there. They went in, they got him out of the mall, and they moved on. And that's one story I always remember about the Tanglewood Boys. But what happened to them afterwards? They went on to bigger and better things, some of them. Betrayal, one friend saved one friend's life, and despite this, he testified against him in court when he turned evidence. The group basically consisted of Darren Mozzarella. Now, the Mozzarellas, I knew them. They had delis also. In White Plains, they had a deli, and they also had a place in Yonkers. The family is quite big in that area. Anthony DeSimone and Andre DeSimone, Johnny Fatface Petrocelli, Freddie Boy Santorelli. He was the son of Blue Eyes, uh, another made man, Steven Crea Jr., and he's the son of Steven Crea Sr. And you hear a lot about that because, as you know, Dominic Crea, who has Justice Tech Pro, is his brother and the father of, let me get you 1 second, please. This is Steven Crea Jr. right here. He was a member of the Tanglewood Boys. And of course, this is his dad, who is now in prison. And Dominic Crea is fighting for his release over a lot of injustices done in that case. But we're not going to get into that. I just wanted to get you an idea who a couple people were in the Tanglewood Boys. Okay, let's get rid of that. Okay, so what happened here? The Tanglewood Boys, they would hang out at the Tanglewood Mall, right? And they would go to clubs, listen to music. They liked Bruce Springsteen, Billy Joel, and even Neil Diamond. You know, back music of the '90s. Um, and they used to go to clubs all over Westchester and the Bronx and beat the shit out of people as a group. They got free drinks. They started a fight with other guys, and the other guys would always get thrown out. They were clean cut dressers, probably more preppy than anything. You wouldn't take them as uh, low lives or anything like that. You would look at them and you would not even think that they were the gang they were, but they were vicious. They became vicious killers. Uh, in the 1990s, or in the mid 1990s, the gang began to rise in the public eyes and they became known as a mob farm team led by Lucchese captain Anthony Blue Eyes Santorelli. And remember, his son was a member of the Tanglewood Boys. Many of the gangs were sons of made men in general, and a lot of them grew up in New York and then moved to Yonkers. A lot of the gangsters back then moved and bought homes in Yonkers. Uh, and the gang was murdered. They became involved in murders, assaults, armed robbery, arsons, bookmaking operations all over Westchester County, Hastings, areas like that, and the Bronx. And remember, there was a lot of money in Westchester County, and they were up there making a lot of money. Uh, there was a one Johnny Fat Face Petroselli. He aspired to become a made man. A matter of fact, he stabbed a school kid, Paul Cicero, and it was a revenge thing because his friend just got gunned down and shot, lived. That's just another story I'm going to add on to this. But Petroselli buried a knife deep into the Cicero's abdomen and told him, "Give that to your cousin." The cousin was the one that shot his friend. Uh, so on this happened on February 2nd, 1992. The Mozzarella brothers, and there were two of them. They went to a friend's house for a party in Tuckahoe. And Tuckahoe's a suburb of Westchester County, a pretty nice area, actually. An older Gambino associate was snorting coke in the bathroom all night, and it was like something like that bat sting where they tease people. He's a made man, so he's teasing people. I'm sorry, not a made man, he's an associate, but he's known to have ties to Gambinos. And he was snorting coke all night, this guy, and he was teasing Nick Mozzarella. And so basically what happened, he grabbed the guy by the throat and he choked him, and the guy went unconscious. He fell to the floor unconscious. Another Tanglewood boy ran into the kitchen and stabbed this dude in the neck with a kitchen knife. This is how violent these guys were slowly becoming. Their level of violence was increasing continuously. So on March 6th, this is where the shooting happened, and this is kind of sad, but this was the beginning of the end. Well, not the beginning of the end, but it was getting close to that point because they were becoming so violent. Darren Mozzarella and Joseph Petroselli got into a racial argument with this guy named Cassim Merchant, a 16-year-old, and they beat him to death in New Rochelle. And so now we're talking about, now they're killing guys. They're beating guys to death. So then we go to February 4th, 1994. The Tangle Wood Boys murdered Louis Balancio. If I got that wrong, that name wrong, I apologize. And he was a Mercy College student, and he was outside the strike zone bar, and he was mistaken for a rival Albanian gangster. And the same day, an FBI agent observed Anthony Santarelli dumping something into a garbage can, which turned out to be the clothes covered in blood that was used at that murder. And the DNA checked. The clothes belonged to Louis Bianco. Anthony DeSimone, the son of Lucchese Family Captain Salvatore DeSimone, went into hiding after the murder of Balancio. So, you're talking about, then it gets to 1995. Petroselli and Mozzarella, they're still running around, these two guys, they're still doing a lot of damage. So we're talking 3 straight years here of them doing this stuff. So they get into a dispute with the Genovese family associates, Gino Gallo and Michael Zanfardino. The dispute was allegedly over turf, came to a head on June 20th when Petroselli refused to apologize for throwing a beer bottle in the direction of Zanfardino. So Zanfardino retaliated by tracking down and shooting Mozzarella, who lived 9 to 14 times, depending on who you hear the story from. But the fact of the matter is, he was shot up real bad. So basically, what happened at that point, that was just basically because he refused to apologize. That's the attitude these guys had. And if you've seen this, they call him Fat Face, this Petroselli guy, you would never even think he was a gangster or a mobster of any type. But he was. I mean, he acted like one. He acted the part. And but what happened? His friend was that he's basically the one that was shot, Mozzarella. After he was shot, Petroselli was mad. But he stabbed a kid in the stomach who was related to the guy that shot him. And he said to him, he stuck this knife in his stomach and said, "Make sure you give that to your cousin." Basically killed him. So at that point, everything started going to hell because the FBI was all over the place. And so what happened is, I'm going to read you what happened. They finally got arrested. And let me put this up here. This is from the New York Post. So just think of, I'm going to just read this to you just so you get an idea of what it is. Okay, let's go here. 1 second, please. Thug turns pal who saved his life. A former boy mobster yesterday ratted out his longtime pal, telling Manhattan jury how his friend had rushed him to the hospital after he shot him He was shot 9 times and avenged the attack by killing a 17-year-old. Throughout his testimony, Darren Mazzarella, who spent years running with the notorious Tanglewood Boys, avoided looking into his one-time buddy John Fatface Petroselli's eyes, who was standing trial for the slaying of a teen near a Bronx school 7 years ago. As teenagers growing up in Westchester, Mazzarella spent weekends sleeping over the home of Petroselli's mom, watching mob movies and dreaming of becoming a made man. But the glamour of the gang life was nowhere to be seen yesterday as Mazzarella recounted the events of the summer night of 1995 when he was shot 9 times by a friend of Genevieve's crime family associate, Gene Gallo, after Petroselli had thrown a bottle in his direction. When Petroselli refused to apologize, Mazzarella, who at the time was on record with the Lucchese family, was tealed and sprayed with bullets. I was hit in the arm, my legs, my butt, and my lower spine. Basically, from my knee to my elbow, he said. After joining other gang members and taking Petroselli to the hospital, Mazzarella later that night saw Gallo's cousin, Paul Cicero, and stabbed him, telling him, "Give this to your cousin," as he plunged the knife deep into his stomach. Mazzarella, who began cooperating with the feds after being arrested in connection with another murder, said that he was told about the attack by fellow gang members who visited him in the hospital in the days after the shooting. So here we go. Think about this. So this guy Mazzarella, just to get off the hook, basically sold out his friend who came to his aid that night and was so angry he was looking for revenge. And the very murder he committed for revenge of the shooting on Mazzarella is the one that put him away. Now, there's a lot of other guys in this story that I would love to talk about, but I'm not going to for one simple reason. One's a captain in the Lucchese family. A couple of them are still very active in the Lucchese family. You know, you hear the mob's dead, but when you hear that these guys are active, it makes you wonder how dead the mob really is, because I've been hearing that from about a lot of families lately. And so some of the guys I just named, they're active right now in the family. But it just goes to show you, now these guys, they all grew up, their parents were gangsters and stuff, their fathers. And they grew up in the nice areas of Yonkers. They had no reason to become the gangsters they became, but they wanted to live up to their parents' name. So it makes you wonder, you know, you're a gangster, you buy these beautiful homes. The homes in Yonkers in the nice areas cost a lot of money. And these gangsters lived in these homes. And these guys still didn't care. These young guys, they wanted to be like their parents. And they got caught up in murder. Several of them went to prison. And, you know, you hear a lot about the Bath Avenue crew. Now, the difference between the Bath Avenue crew, I would say, and the Tanglewood Boys is the Bath Avenue crew. They were more kids who didn't have parents in the mob, probably poorer kids, maybe not as vicious. And it's kind of funny because, you know, you hear a lot of things when you listen to Jimmy Calandra about the Bath Avenue Boys. But you know, if one of these guys from the Tanglewood Boys came forward, they can give you the same type of stories. Fact of the matter is that, like the Bath Avenue Boys, the Bonanno family type of farm club, this was a Lucchese farm club. And the difference between the Bath Avenue boys is those guys aren't around no more, or they're not in the mob. There was one guy, Made. I'm not sure if he's even associated anymore. What happened to him in the Bath Avenue crew? But you're talking the Tanglewood Boys. Some of them are still heavily involved, and one of them is a captain in the Lucchese crime family. And I just wanted to share that with you guys. I just find it a very fascinating story, and tell me what you think. Leave some messages below. I'm gonna be giving out more. I'm gonna do more stories like this. They're not gonna be. I'm not gonna go on live and do stories like this. I'm gonna just give you the basic rundown of these stories, and then you guys can make your decision. But I found it fascinating because I remember these kids hanging out in that lot. And I never thought nothing of it. To me, they were nothing. They were just some kids with nice cars hanging out in the parking lot or in the stores or, in the mall. Usually they were outside in their cars and you would see them there. Then they would hang out in the bars there. They would get into fights. But anytime you get a group of people together, shit happens. It doesn't matter where they're from or who they are. But these guys were feared by Albanians who were all over Yonkers at that time. And it's because the Albanians knew who their parents were. Their parents were made men. One was a captain, and then, so the Albanians probably figured, well, we can't mess with them too much. Because the Albanians outnumbered them 20-1. There were Albanians everywhere in Yonkers back then. I'm sure they're still there, but they were really heavily influencing the crime syndicates in that area. Okay, well, please like my video, sub to my channel if you haven't, and I'll be putting out more stuff like this. And less drama, more stuff like this. Take care, people.